Hi, ladies. Welcome to this interview with Jennifer James. You are going to really enjoy what she has to share and hear about all of the amazing things that she does. Jennifer, please introduce yourself to the girls and tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yes, so thank you for having me, first and foremost. My name is Jennifer James, and I am the president and CEO of JJ Collaboration. And what really we do is we create opportunities and maximize opportunities and potentials for clients. And I so happen to be one of my first clients myself, where I am also the owner and founder of Activewear, and that is a women's plus size athleisure line that's dedicated to the plus size segment and audience.
Well, that is so cool. So how did you, what was kind of like the tipping point that got you to go into not just athletic wear, athleisure wear? I didn't say that right at all. But to do it also for a plus size, like what was that tipping point to get you to go in that direction?
Sure. So really my biggest motivation outside of myself is that I actually saw that it was an actual problem that hadn't really been solved. And even just being plus size going through my pregnancy and even post-pregnancy, I was able to experience the lack of tangible options that this audience had to choose from when it came to athletic and, athleisure wear. You look at some of the cute styles and things that like Lululemon has, right? And you're like, oh, I really love those leggings, or I really love those pieces. And then when it came to, sizes that were 12 plus and up, typically to about 12 plus to about 12 to 32, it was very limited with the assortment, or they only had 3 or 4 sizes of this particular thing. And just as I go further along, I do want to clarify the difference between activewear and athleisure wear, because I think, there can be some confusion there, but really it is all of the same. It's just that, when people think of activewear, they think of like the true Adidas or the true Nikes, those brands that are dedicated to that athlete and this type of performance. And really athleisure wear, as it's grown nationwide, is really just, stylish activewear clothes. Before it was just a regular, black leggings and shirt. Now
Hold on one second, Jennifer, because it is, I'm sorry.
It kind of makes it a little bit more stylish and more comfortable for every person,
Hey, Jennifer, I am so sorry, but the audio and everything got real, and even the video part got real choppy, and not everything that you were saying came across.
Okay.
So you were the part that you were talking about with the difference between active wear or athletic wear and athleisure wear. I still feel like I'm saying that wrong. But the difference between the two.
Yeah. So active wear and athleisure wear are one of the same, but the purposes tend to be a little different. So when you think about activewear, before one was thinking about a Nike or Adidas, where it's really performance driven and really for the athlete. And when you think about athleisure wear, athleisure is more of the stylish, more comfy but stylish, but still using the components of activewear clothing. The power mesh, you think about compressionalized clothing, but structured and constructed in a way where it looks like everyday clothing.
So then, were you already in an area where you were doing like clothes designing, that kind of thing, and so it was easy for you to get into this? Or no, I had to learn how to do like what kind of fabrics and what kind of cuts and that kind of thing. Like that part fascinates me.
Yeah, so I worked in the IT field. I was working in IT in the healthcare field. Behavior health is that. So I was in a completely different, sector. And so really I have, as women, we really go through these transitions in life, whether it's, marriage and then having a baby and then adding another, but, and having all these transitions where I felt like for a while that I was kind of losing a piece of me through all these transitions, and so really I was at the phase where after I had my second child, I really just wanted to be in a phase where I wanted to do something that I was passionate about doing. Even if that meant I only had an hour after I put everybody to bed afterwards to dedicate that hour, I wanted to do something that I was passionate about again. And so the need for me came when I originally started looking for sports bras. At the time I was a double D cup. And there were no sports bra options. There just weren't. And I really wanted to start constructing garments in the activewear space. And then I started looking deeper and starting to see, why not try just apparel and clothing first, And so I actually hired a small fashion project management company in Chicago, Illinois, to manage the process for me during the day. And I was able to pick up on it at night because a lot of the people we were talking to were overseas. So our days are their nights, and so it kind of worked out. But not only that, I really wanted to understand the business. I didn't really want to, burn too much money, not understanding the processes and being connected to the right, groups of people. Because, when you go into, production and manufacturing, people, these factories are not going to turn on their machines for you to produce 5 or 10 garments.
Right.
And in the beginning, you're really not producing that many because you don't really have your sales, and you really just, you may be like 5 or 10 of each style, So you really needed to be in the network and in the know on how to, talk with these different manufacturers. So I kind of paid to play, I would say, for a little bit. And then when the opportunity came up for my consulting project to end, I felt like that was a segue, and God was really telling me, this is your time to step out there, because I would not have quit my job to do this. I would have to be forced, you know what I mean, to be out there and to do it. And it just, I just never looked back after that.
See, that's exciting. I mean, that's part of like your answer that really resonated with me too, is the fact of like, as you get older as a female, it's those little pieces that get kind of eroded away. It's like, first you become a wife, you become an employee, you become mom, and so you start fitting into those little boxes, and then trying to remember like who am I at the core, and what really excites me, and getting back to that. So that is really a piece for I think young ladies to think about and consider at the forefront of. It's kind of like, what is it that, keep that in mind of being sure that, we've got those pieces that really help drive us. Cause I think that helps us be more whole and more present for sure, as a wife, as a mother, as an employee, or even within your own business, if you start your own business. So definitely. So that's very cool. And it's really, it really is true. Like the point that you brought too about, those manufacturing plants are not going to do it for you for just a few pieces. So where did you start that? So you started like with that company in Illinois. Is that what you started with?
So the benefit of going with that company at the time was that they had all the contacts. So everything just kind of funneled through them. And so I was able to go through the design process and to go through the, the prototype and picking fabrics and understand what this process really looks like from beginning to end. And they had those key contacts that were able to distribute my goods. And for me to be able to be that liaison that really talks to them back and forth to establish that relationship. So they were just kind of like introducing me to the creme de la creme of the process, because it is one of those, industries where you kind of need to know people to kind of understand how to navigate, because it can get very expensive. And that's with any business that you're really starting off doing. I think one of the things that I kind of admire about myself through any process I go through is I have the willingness to learn it. I don't go into anywhere thinking that I know everything, or that, I can do this, or I can experience this. I think there's always room to grow, and always those resources and, availability to do that. I'm very quick to, reach out on, using my tools, reach out on LinkedIn and try to schedule a coffee or schedule a virtual meeting in this case to kind of better understand, how certain people are moving, and joining networks and organizations that I feel could be beneficial, to my craft and what I'm trying to do, and really being intentional about what I'm trying to get and learn, and so through that, I was able to link up with this group that was able to introduce me to people, and to, eventually where I was comfortable enough to kind of lead the entire process on my own. But, there was lingo I didn't understand. There was pricing I didn't understand. Now I kind of understood, once you have your designs and you're trying to do you're asking a factory to sew for you, but they need patterns. You got to have somebody to, do patterns, and when you're, in the beginning, you're kind of doing a la carte, just finding resources to do this individually. And then as you grow and, have bigger orders, I understood that, a factory can do it. They have factories that are one-stop shops. You really don't have to run around town, but you have to get there, and be ready to be able to do that. So.
And I think that's a good point too, for our young ladies who are watching to pick up on, is that there's being confident, and then there is I guess like being confident, and then there's being cocky, like actually you can be confident and realizing too that you don't know everything, and that it's okay to ask questions, and nobody's going to think less of you if you're asking questions. So that way you can learn, that really is, and not be afraid to ask those questions, So I think that's really important, because I think, I think sometimes everybody thinks that they have to be like, if I walk into that room and I'm going to do something, I have to be the expert. And I have to know everything. And it's kind of like, that's not necessarily the case. So,
not at all. Not at all.
Not in mind. So what all, so like with being within fashion and everything, you've touched on, having a team and building that network, who can help you navigate through, but what are some things or trainings, that if we've got a young lady who's watching who is interested in going into this particular area, that she should be looking to do trainings or classes or mentorships or apprenticeships, what should she be looking for?
Yeah, so anybody that's kind of in the fashion or beauty, I would just say beauty realm, I think when you're looking to start your entrepreneurship journey, with having your own business, I think it's very beneficial to read books, to talk to those that have experienced it. We're lucky here to have a bunch of boutiques in the area where, there's consignment shops. There's all these different types of avenues at which you can sell goods. Or if you wanted to have a storefront, be able to do that, But I think one thing that I always say is that really start slow and at a pace to where you're comfortable with, and at a pace where you can actually provide good service. You can have a website and have all of these goods up, but if you're not able to produce them in time to where there's like a 2 to 3 days to ship and mail, then you're going to have unhappy customers, and you end up having bad reviews, and the things can get just really, chaotic. I think, stepping into retail and fashion is forever evolving, because, you're finding clothes cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
You're finding more value-based stores like Dollar General or Walmart carrying just as good as quality as some of the other premium stores like the Target, or whatnot. So I think, adding your own personality to what you bring and being able to have a community of people or followers, I call them your VIPs within your crowd, to be able to really enjoy the value that you're bringing with your product and to promote it and to be happy, is just something that is success to me, because there's so many ways people can buy goods. I mean, people do it on Amazon, people actually go into stores. There's so many channels. And so you just kind of have to be able to be ready to evolve and kind of stay ahead of the curve or wherever your industry is really going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially I think with fashion too, because sometimes it seems to change so much, even in like a year. Really having to keep up with that is a lot to have to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what has been, because you said that you talked about how you had a lot to learn. There's a lot of lingo and everything that you had to learn about. What has been, do you think, the biggest thing that you struggled with? And then how did you handle it?
The biggest thing that I struggle with, which I think there was 2 things actually. One of the things was funding, because it doesn't matter what you decide to do, you need money. You do. And you need money. And when you get to the point where I was, where I'm actually looking for investment, it gets trickier, right? And so historically, how you manage money, how you're, the sales at which you're, driving, and the notoriety at which your brand has is important. Those are all important factors. And, so I would say that money was one of them. How did I handle it? Just like everyone else, you just got to keep moving forward, right? It's almost like a wing and a prayer, and at some point, what I will say is that you will get noticed. You will, and when the opportunity meets, the right timing, it will work out. But you just have to have patience with yourself, and just kind of have patience with what you're doing, and never stop believing, and keeping that vision. Very important. It's just like, I always equate that to, I used to say, how in the heck am I going to pay for college?
Yeah.
And it's like, I got through it.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know, but I didn't stop moving, so it seems to work itself out. And then the other thing is, I really didn't understand, once I, was able to make, hitting my margins and making these products, I really didn't know the value that I really brought to this field. It was hard for me to jump out of student mode and go into like almost this, okay, you're mature enough, it's time, like enough to actually reach back and help, or to be able to be the expert in some area. I still struggle with that. I don't know if that's like a woman thing, or like, I don't want to come across like, oh, because I'm not like making, multi-millions or whatever, but I do struggle with saying I'm the best person for the job. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you, let me give you a little bit about my background and my history and what I've done. I struggle with kind of owning that, even though it's been done, and it's kind of a weird thing. And most women that I'm talking to today, they definitely understand, because it's almost like you don't want to come across a certain way, especially being a woman at the table, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. You almost have to be with, society, or act in a way that, is expected. But I had to jump out of that, because I was starting to be everyone else, and so, and I say that to say, understand the value that you bring, and know that you are enough.
Absolutely.
You are enough, and even if it appears to be small milestones, to someone else, it is huge. You're always going to be an inspiration. How you carry yourself, how you inspire people, and what you're doing. Even if you have one or two customers, it's enough.
Exactly.
So that is really the important thing, because I think we are our biggest enemies sometimes, because we have this weird illusion of comparing ourselves to something that really doesn't exist. And if it did exist, we really don't know how they got where they are, or how happy they are where they are. So we almost have to just focus on what we're doing, what we're trying to accomplish. And, I got to the point where I'm on social media for business only.
Yes.
So that's to post, and that's to share content, but I don't, go, snooping and looking on other people's pages, because it can be a lot. It really can, especially if you are trying to get somewhere and you feel like you haven't, reached it yet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I totally agree with that. There's a lot of, I don't remember who said it, but there's a saying where, that you need to stop comparing your, chapter 2 to somebody else's chapter 42.
That's right.
And you don't see, and what's on social media is, that is the filtered version of everybody's life. It really is. They're putting that, these great pictures up, or these great posts and things like that, and you're not really seeing all the turmoil and all the struggle and everything like that went before that.
Right.
And so it isn't fair for you to try to compare yourself. So I think it's really smart, to really just be limiting what you're doing on social media. So ladies, really honestly and truly, when you're on your social media, think about like with the accounts that you're going to be following. Is this something that is making me feel jealous, making me feel less than, or is it something that's making me feel empowered and good about myself? I'm going to really start evaluating that and getting rid of those things that make you feel less than. Sorry, we're getting a little preachy here in our interview.
No, I think it's perfect.
It's good stuff. But like, it just really is.
It's perfect, because the truth of the matter is entrepreneurship is starting younger and younger.
Yes, for sure.
People are not waiting, until they graduate college. People are doing it while they're in college or while they're graduating high school. These visions hit people at different times of their lives, and when it's in you, it's in you. So I think it's very beneficial for you to be, restating that statement.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, knowing your value and really having the faith in it and speaking into it, to not be afraid to open your mouth and to share it, and to realize that, I mean, I know that this seems like the girls are watching this and probably like, well, you just told us, that we're not going to, that, to realize that, we're not, cocky or whatever, but now you're like saying like, hey, realize it, that you've got this and to share it. It just is taking that time and stepping back and realizing though, that while you are sharing and your value, also realizing that, there is still a lot to learn no matter where you're at in life. You always have something to learn, and you always have something that you can learn from somebody else. So for sure, I mean, it's, there are good nuggets here, ladies. What has been probably the most rewarding part of this new adventure that you've been engaged in?
I think for me, it's just been I feel like I'm really stepping into knowing what I want, knowing where more my strengths are, and really I've spent so much time building this network and this way of navigating this world and being able not to only maximize for myself opportunities, but for other clients as well, to where, the part of me learning was my own brand first, going through that whole process. I mean, from a bunch of learned experiences to a bunch of successes. And then it's like, I have established this blueprint that I feel I can pass on and actually help others and, continue this journey, it was almost like my stepping stone, right, to get there. So for me, it's rewarding as I'm acquiring clients or finding these opportunities. I remember when I went from just having like a one person helping me, like a friend or an intern or whatever, to like actually having a team of that are experts and just growing in a way that I think is very unique, and, it's just time. Time is of the essence, I never thought that I would leave my single brand to help people with their other brands. I was very open to opportunities and very open to what this looked like, and I didn't close any, I didn't have any doors really shut in terms of on myself with saying, no, Jennifer, you can't do that, can't do that. I'm very flexible and very much able to evolve as the world is evolving. And so I would just say, that I'm still sticking to it, to be honest with you. I think it's pretty cool to have a vision and, and follow it, no matter how high the mountains get.
Absolutely.
All the distractions that happen, so yeah, I appreciate that the most.
That's awesome. And I just was thinking throughout the nice thread that has been going throughout our conversation here has been about the fact of like being patient, knowing your value, and consistency, to really be, and I've seen that kind of like coming up for you again, like here, not necessarily that particular term, but just the fact that like just kept going at it. I just kept going at it, and how that's so important to do. And then being flexible is the last thing, just being open to those possibilities, because you've done great things that probably when you first started out weren't even things that you thought that you were going to do, so. Exactly. And just, but look at all the wonderful things that you're doing because you were open to that. That's awesome. How has it been different than you thought it was going to be? Like when you first started, like, I think I'm going to do this whole designing a clothing line. How is it different now than what you envisioned then?
I think that I expected to be the face right? And so you think about, oh, I'm going to be so famous. I'm going to have a line. Everyone's going to know who I am. It's you're living in this world not realizing there's millions of other people that live here. But I was all about notoriety. Mm-hmm. I wanted everybody to know that was me. Everybody know that I did this. Everybody. And so I had to shift that because what I realized is my gift is really being the bridge between connections.
That's very cool.
Not necessarily what I thought it was or what I really wanted to. You have to really do some deep, what I did in my 20s, I'm telling you, like, you really have to do some deep soul, right? This is life talking right now. This is not out of high school in 20s, trust me. But I think it's important to know, even in the very beginning, that you have to leave room for what you don't know. Mm-hmm. It's always great to have a plan. It's always good to have these visions, but you have to leave room for life. And that's the part that I didn't do, right? I didn't have any gaps for life, and so life happens. Things happen, the world is happening. Right now we're in the middle of COVID-19. Who would have thought the whole world shuts down?
Yeah, right.
And whatever we left doing before this, we're probably going to have to re-strategize going back in.
Yeah.
Now things have changed. So that means your concept has to change, your strategy has to, all these other channels at which, people that were going face-to-face going to stores are not. I look at gyms. People were going to gyms because this is happening. Now people are going to be a little bit more fearful. So what remote access are they going to have? You almost have to, it's not like you're changing what you're offering. You're just changing how you're reaching the people by doing it.
Exactly. I've been thinking through this whole thing is that the companies that are going to really succeed and thrive are those that have been flexible and been able to adapt and been willing to adapt.
I think about Amazon. They did that Amazon happened for the fashion industry a couple years before this whole COVID-19. So as soon as Amazon got on the market and started selling clothes, we were all like, okay. So now everybody's like e-commerce, right? And so it's almost like this shift, right? So, I would say leave room for life. It's going to be some pivots. It's going to be some turns. You're going to feel like you're going back 10 steps and moving forward, one, but it's all part of the journey. It's all part of the process. Things can happen like that, good or bad, and so you just kind of have to embrace these moments, find ways to find the good in these moments, even though it's really hard. I'm not going to lie. It's really hard sometimes, but, it's all part of your story. That's what you have to think about. It's all part of my story. And one day you're going to truly, if you're not already, inspire someone to say, if this person can do it, then I can too, and that's really what it's all about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we spent a little bit of time talking about where you were. We spent a little bit of time talking about where you are. And granted, we said like we do need to, leave room for life. But what are like what are the future goals for you?
Yeah. So that's kind of hard to manage sometimes. That's so much I want to do. But I would say right now that's on my radar. I want to continue being that bridge in unique ways. I also, with the business and growing, I also am very passionate about, using my gifts and what I consider value to contribute on with different nonprofit boards and organizations in a way that's benefiting and inspiring others and making a difference in one's life. I also want to invest in startup businesses for women. Very passionate about that. And particularly minority women. I feel from an I am the story of that when it comes to investment. So I know what that looks like. Being a woman is hard enough, and then when you start dissecting, it can really be challenging. Not more than a challenge than anything else. It's just something that I've experienced, Right. I also have a passion. I really want to start a podcast. I want to start a podcast, being able to use these women in my network to be able to tell their story and to be able to do it, freely and rawly. I think it's important. And I feel like these stories are beautiful, in a sense. After talking to you and then talking to other people, I'm always leave so inspired, even if it's like a small nugget. And I think, being able to know you have that safe space or that safe community to be able to do that is just, it's meaningful.
Absolutely. That's wonderful too. I really, the whole thing about just of all of us realizing that even if it's just one person that you help motivate, that is worth it.
Yeah.
It really is. Thank you so much for your time and the interview. It's been amazing. Ladies, be sure that you scroll down. There's a little bit more from Jennifer James. There's a little written portion there. And then scroll down a little farther. There's the comment section. If you've got any questions or comments for Jennifer, be sure to post them there. And we will be sure to get her in contact and coming back to answer your questions. So thank you so much. And ladies, we'll see you a little bit later. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.